Hey everybody, welcome to Midas Letter Daily for this Tuesday, February 15th, and it is a very green day in the markets today. A very green day indeed. All kinds of interesting things happening. Foremost among them, Russia pulling out of the Ukraine confrontation just ever so slightly, sending some troops home. Today my guest is going to be Michael Dean. He's the CEO of United Lithium, and if you're not following lithium, it has quadrupled in price basically this year, in the last 18 months or so, even more so, and continues to add new ground every day. Markets have surged higher around the world today as signals from the Fed and other major central banks suggest that interest rates will not start rising too aggressively in March, and Russian troops on the Ukrainian frontier were reduced ever so slightly, creating the impression for now that diplomacy might have actually worked. The Dow is up over 1%, Nasdaq is up just over 2%, the S&P is up 1.2% and going higher. Gold is backed off a bit, copper's at $4.50, holding strong there, and Bitcoin is up ever so slightly at $43,953. All this despite the VIX index rising 1.9% to over 28. Suggesting that the rally is merely a bounce on the general trend lower in market sentiment. So that has defined markets so far in 2022. Lithium today rose another 0.5% to $48,630 per ton of lithium hydroxide. Lithium's just been relentless this year, and it looks to go much higher. And on that note, that's why we're featuring lithium companies rather extensively this year. And here's Michael Dean, CEO of United Lithium, to tell you about his exciting future. Michael Dean joins me now. He's the CEO of United Lithium Corp. Trades on the CSE under the symbol ULTH, and in the United States of America under the symbol ULTHF. Michael, welcome back. It has been far too long.
James, good to see you again.
So, Michael, let's talk about United Lithium, though. Lithium being the hottest commodity since sliced bread in 2022, having increased by a factor of 5x so far, up 5% in the futures market just yesterday. You have created a company that is focused on spodumene mining, hard rock mining sources of lithium. Tell us about the company.
So we have three projects in the Arctic Circle, I guess in the northern countries. We have Canada, Finland, and Sweden, and we really are targeting the battery gigafactory market. We're not really too concerned with what's going on in China, but we're concerned about what's going on in North America and Europe. And there's it's quite a bit of exploration going on in North America now with the clays and the brines and the direct lithium extraction from groundwater. And then you've got all the pegmatites in Manitoba, Ontario, and Quebec, and the Carolinas. But when you go to Europe, there just aren't a lot of projects, and the demand is higher in Europe than it is in North America. So we made a conscious decision just over a year ago to focus on Europe and to look to feed those gigafactories. And Scandinavia is just like working in Ontario, Northern Ontario, same type of forest, same type of rocks, same equipment's used. So it was quite a natural transition for us to look in that region versus going down into Portugal or some of the other parts of Europe that everything's a little different than how we work here in Canada.
Right. So battery making capacity is up in Europe.
There is more capacity than there is supply available right now.
How far away are your projects from producing lithium at this point?
That depends on a few political angles we approach. How do we permit? Do we permit as a mine or a quarry? Do we permit a concentrate plant separate from a mine? Do we buy a brownfield site to put up our processing facility versus trying to permit a greenfield site? In the extreme fastest way to production without having to go through a PEA, we could probably be in production in under 18 months. If we have to go the full PEA route, if we have to do full environmental permitting versus just permitting a quarry, it could take a lot longer. But super fast, 18 months, normal speed, 3 to 5 years.
We're talking the most advanced one then is the Barbara Lake project in Thunder Bay?
Actually, Barbara Lake is our most grassroots. It's the one we started with. Tech with their big resource, 10 million tons at just over 1%. We're probably further ahead at both Finland and Sweden. Both of them have had pretty extensive drill programs, and we've I think we're up to hole like 83 or 84 in Sweden now. Continuing to drill, expect to have another drill on the property shortly. So that one's driving forward. Part of it is logistics. The logistics there are phenomenal. We have a railway line through the property, a power line through the property, a highway through the property. It's like we're 2 hours from downtown Stockholm. Our project in Finland, we're an hour from downtown Helsinki. Our project in northwestern Ontario, we're an hour and change from downtown Thunder Bay. So, logistics are kind of key for bulk commodities, and we really keep that in mind. But Bergby has the logistics. It's really set for it.
Wow. And so when one thinks of mining, one doesn't generally think of Sweden and Finland off the top of one's head. What is the environment there in terms of permitting environmentally? It seems like it's more sensitive socially than other places.
Yeah, I mean, we actually have left out of the area where we are. There's some old growth forest that you can mine in, but we purposely did not stake that ground because we are sensitive to the culture and people. I mean, Swedes like to go out for a hike and go pick mushrooms, and there are two communities that are very close to us, and we can coexist together. It's what we are doing right now for drilling and what we expect to do for mining should not deter people from going for a walk in the woods. We're not looking at making a super pit. We're not looking at doing a big underground operation. The processing facility we don't see being at the mine site, but a distance away. So it is, you have to be culturally sensitive. You have to understand what the needs are. There are rules in Sweden too. Like there's not really a trespassing law. If somebody wants to walk through your back field, that's allowed in Sweden. You just, don't walk up to someone's house, but going for a walk somewhere, it's pretty open ground. We're not in an area where there's the Laplanders or the reindeer herders. We're outside of that, local community, so we don't interfere with that. And we're in an area that's traditionally forestry and logging, so it is, natural resources are acceptable. And Sweden's got some actually quite big mining companies, Boliden, LKAB, the large European iron ore miners. The Lundin Group comes out of Sweden. And if we look to the, only or the nearest term lithium producer, we go to Finland to Kaliber, which Sibiana Stillwater is a partner in, and Nordic Minerals is a partner in. So you got some bigger shoulders in the Scandinavian countries. Agnico Eagle's over in Finland for gold. So you kind of look at who's there. They just don't tout their horn the same way we do here in North America. So
I'm looking on your site, looking at all the press releases. You guys have been pretty aggressively exploring and developing these projects. I'm curious about the cost of producing lithium from spodumene in terms of metallurgic and processing. Is that something that you have a firm understanding of at this point in your evolution?
Well, we don't know for our own deposits yet. I mean, there is going to be different differences in labor costs for Europe and differences in energy costs for Europe versus what you see in Canada or Australia. But if you look who the big producers are, Australia is probably the dominant producer of lithium, and they're producing it all from hard rock. So if you're going to South America, it's almost exclusively coming from the salars or the salt flats. So different processes, different operations completely. But spodumene mining, hard rock mining, is how they started back in the 1800s. They were hand cobbing the spodumene crystals to process them, and spodumene was originally discovered in Sweden. So there is a history to it in Scandinavia. It just hasn't been really important to the market, other than the ceramics industry out of Portugal for the last 50 years. In
terms of where are you at in the sort of financial capacity? Do you have capital on hand to complete your projects in 2022? Or are you going to need to go to the market?
Well, we have 4 million plus in the bank. I think we're like 4.8 or 4.9. We expect to do a large financing. We did file a shelf prospectus back in December that will allow us to raise 150 million over a 25-month period. So we still have 23 months to go on that. The markets have been a little squishy since the end of June, so it's been a little tougher to look and say, do we want to take that dilution right now? Because our project, we have, like every other company, we've got tons of assays in the lab, and we're waiting for results from last year still. So it's a matter of waiting, playing catch up with the labs to get some more news out, get a little more excitement. Finland took us, I think it was a good 9 months to close that transaction too, and COVID has made things a little slower. And the actual industry is hot. So finding equipment, finding people, even our lawyers, sometimes they go, hey, can we put this off a week? Because we're swamped. And our lawyers bend over backwards. They're working Saturday, Sunday, 2, 3 in the morning. They're still sending emails. So it's a hot time. And, you've lived through the cycles too. You gotta make hay when the sun is shining. So we have to get to production as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. Mike, we're going to leave it there for now. We'll come back to you in due course. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks a ton, James. Take care.
Okay, so there's the United Lithium chart for the last year. Obviously coming down from a high up here of $1.75, but was way up here. Well, this is probably when it was a shell, actually. Anyways, so sounds exciting. Hard rock lithium. 53% of the world's lithium comes from hard rock mining presently, most of that from, in fact, almost all of it from Australia. So bright future for lithium, bright future. I wanted to draw your attention to this slide from a recently updated deck from our sponsor, Voxtur Analytics. Now, Voxtur Analytics, we have an option. We stand to make money if the stocks go higher, so we should be regarded as a conflicted, biased, and otherwise self-interested holder of Voxtur Analytics paper. So, however, can't ignore this slide that the company put out, updated 2021 revenue guidance to $95 million for the year, up from the earlier guidance of $60 million if the U.S. foreclosure moratorium was ended, and they projected $80 million if it didn't end. Well, it didn't end, and the company is projecting a 58% bump in revenue anyways. Considering the increasing use of digital closing technologies in the real estate space, Voxtur is poised to become the leader in all aspects of the real estate transactional universe, as we predicted almost a year ago today, and why we got involved with the stock. It has risen over 850% since August 2020, and it looks poised to eat Doma Holdings lunch. If you don't know who Doma Holdings is, it's the billion-dollar competitor who went public by merging with Mark Ein's SPAC Capital Investment Corp. 5 in a $3 billion deal. Doma has lost 65% of its market value since going public in 2021. That is likely largely due to Voxtur's surging market share in the digital real estate closing space. If you haven't looked at Voxtur, look again. Canadian tutoring software platform Paper got a $270 million cash injection from SoftBank today, giving it a valuation of $1.5 billion. The platform is led by Westmount, Quebec resident Phil Cutler, and he has driven revenues from $2 million to over $50 million in just 24 months. Probably look for an IPO on this Canadian tech darling within the next 2 years. The company specializes in tutorial software or tutoring software for high school and university level students. And Prince Andrew's back in the news today. Not that he's ever left, has he? Prince Andrew has finally settled his lawsuit with Virginia Giuffre. What is it with all the people's last names in this scandal? They all got weird last names. Virginia Giuffre. Well, nobody knows how to say any of it. Anyways, Virginia Giuffre settled with Prince Andrew for an undisclosed sum for trafficking her as a teenager. See, money can solve all the world's problems, I guess. But she was trafficked to Prince Andrew by Jeffrey Epstein, who died under extremely mysterious circumstances. The mainstream press uniformly categorizes it as a suicide, though anybody who looks at any of the evidence comes to a very different conclusion. And Ghislaine Maxwell, who of course was convicted on multiple counts of sex trafficking. The undisclosed amount puts to rest the immediate public furor that has tainted the royal family since Prince Andrew and has seen him stripped of all his royal affiliations and patronages. But don't worry, Ghislaine Maxwell says she has lots of names to reveal yet that will keep the story in front and center in the news cycle for years to come. Unless she, of course, mysteriously dies while in custody as well, would not be surprised in the least. The Canadian government finally came up with a state of emergency package that will see truckers participating in the pain in the ass protest that has gone on for far too long. We'll see their insurance terminated, their licenses suspended, and their vehicles confiscated if they persist. It's too bad it took this long. It looks like a win for the truckers, with most provinces accelerating their cancellation of vaccine mandates prematurely. It will come as no great shock when a new variant surfaces in flu season 2022 that induces the need for restrictions that will be widely ignored thanks to the government's apparently given in to the truckers' ludicrous demands. Since restaurants and public gathering places are now going to become high-risk locations for vulnerable members of society, my bet is this is actually going to strangle commerce further rather than open it up and result in an escalation of hospitalizations and deaths while providing a solid ratio of human petri dishes to continue facilitating the mutation and evolution of COVID. In the words of Michael Stipe from REM, it's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine. No. Also, does it seem to you like the United States is absolutely imploding politically and socially? The Wall Street Journal reported that the Democrats were in fact spying on Donald Trump while he was in office, which is like, duh, who wouldn't be spying on the guy who is an absolute despot wannabe and has his fingers on the switches and has the codes to launch nuclear Armageddon? I mean, big surprise. Even the Wall Street Journal now firmly, they actually showed an excerpt from Fox News to back up their reporting on that. It's like, Fox News, so wait a sec. Wall Street Journal is sliding towards the cesspit of so-called journalism that is practiced by Fox News now. Oh my God. And how about the shootings? This was, I mean, it's tragic, but life certainly seems to have a sense of humor. The shootings outside of a club called The Nice Guy after Justin Bieber threw a pre-Super Bowl party in LA last weekend. We consider that in the context of the shootings outside of Drake's Pick 6 restaurants in downtown Toronto in 2018. That saw Jaden's, what was his last name? I can't recall. Getting shot 20 times, still unsolved. It's like nobody's safe anywhere these days, even if you're like an A-list red carpet or you're in the gangsters' sights. What a world we live in, eh? Anyways, that's my little show for today. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back tomorrow with more all kinds of titillating news from markets and predictions and all of this. And if you don't like it, well, send me an email. If you do like it, well, send me an email. If you want to ask me a question, send me an email. I have a greatest carbon emissions reduction technology coming to the platform here soon enough. If you want to get involved with this company, shoot me an email. It's carbon credits, it's alternative food production, protein sources, animal feed, reduced cow farting, you name it. It's amazing. Anyways, that company will be featured prominently here in the weeks ahead. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.